What's up guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're getting back on the diesel build. As you saw in the previous video, we got everything unbolted and cut off the front of the truck. Off camera, I did go ahead and get the frame all wire wheeled as well as the cross member up underneath. And I did get the beams and radius arms apart. I got the coil spring off the whole setup and then wire wheeled everything. One of the things that I wasn't really thinking about, but I am going to be replacing is the ball joints on the front of this, as well as the wheel studs. And then I'm more than likely going to do the wheel bearings too at the same time, just because I have to pull the rotors off to be able to get the studs out. That is something that I wasn't really thinking about when I was planning getting this truck done. I don't know why, it's kind of a general maintenance thing, but it's just something that skipped my mind. I was too busy thinking about coilovers and big tires. So that is something I'm gonna do just because I want the whole front of this truck to be nice and fresh when it is finished. But the point of this video today is we're gonna be making the drop down beam brackets for the front of this truck. And my brother's gone ahead in CAD and drawn these up for me. These beam brackets are referenced off the stock mounting points, which you guys saw I left these on the frame in the previous video. And the reason for that is because my brother and I needed to get some angles and find some measurements off of these to be able to create these 2-inch drop brackets. And the reason we're dropping these 2 inches is because I want the whole front of this truck to basically remain stock geometry. And if I'm adding lift to the front of the truck, I don't want to just throw the coilovers in there and have the beams all articulated out at ride height, because you're going to start playing with the camber and caster of the truck, and you don't want to do that. I want this thing to ride really nice on the street, and the perfect way to do that is to just make the geometry stock even though you're lifting the truck up. So that is the reason why we're dropping the beam pivots down. There is a couple companies that make these pivots, but because we are Wingsworld and we build it ourselves, we went ahead and drew these up, and you can see right here how I have all my templates cut out. We're going to be cutting this out of some 1/4-inch hot rolled steel, just like I did for the 92 F1 build. And the cool part about these beam brackets is what we've noticed between the F250s and the F150s is the beam pivots are really similar. So my brother was able to take that mount that he already made for the 92 F1 build that we did on the steering video. We're able to take that mount and then just modify it a little bit to drop that pivot down 2 inches. So that made things real easy for the one beam pivot that we already had. The other side, which is right here, was definitely a little bit more challenging because you can see in this stock mount, there's only one hole right here that the beam pivot actually goes through, and then the other side is actually in the cross member right here. So this hole right here is actually the second pivot it went through right there. So since we're dropping it down 2 inches, we're down below where the actual cross member is. And that made things a little bit more difficult because now we're adding more plates than what was there before. Whereas this mount right here, you can see it's a double shear mount, but the stock pivot was also a double shear mount. So this is definitely going to be a little bit more tricky than the other one, but I think we got it handled. My brother did a really good job on getting all the angles and everything, all the holes marked out and all that stuff. So I don't think it'll be that big of a deal, but I do need to go ahead and start cutting this stuff out, which I'll show you guys right now. Just need to get the templates traced out and then cut them out on the bandsaw, clean them up, and then start drilling holes in all this stuff and getting it mocked together. That was pretty straightforward. This one is basically the same one that I did on the 92 F1 build. Same principle, same idea, went together exactly the same. The only difference between the two is obviously the 2-inch drop on this, and also this gusset changed a little bit. My brother changed up the design on it just a tiny bit because these tabs are now a little bit longer he made this just a little bit different. But now that this one's done, I have been messing with this one just a little bit, which is right here, but I am running into an issue already. And this is the side that we obviously haven't done before. The issue I'm running into is the inside, this tab right here, up against the actual cross member, is not sitting flush. And the reason for that is because the cross member has like basically a radius in it. You can kind of see on this side right here how the cross member has a radius to it on the inside. It's the same thing on this side, but because this plate right here has a straight cut to it, it's basically just a real sharp angle. It's not sitting up against the cross member correctly. You can see it's pushing this top side up, and then if I push in on that, it's pushing it away. So you can see how much it actually is sitting away from the frame. So I did get everything to sit flat. You can see I got the 3 bolts in, sitting nice and flush now up against the cross member. I had to take quite a bit out of this lip in here on the tab just to get it to kind of contour to the radius on the cross member. But I did go ahead and get another hole drilled, and that is where the stock beam pivot actually mounted to before, where the beam actually mounted to. So I put a 1/2 inch bolt through there, so that's holding this tab on as well. And then I just need to go ahead and start getting these other plates right here. I'm gonna work on getting this plate on right here. And then I have this gusset as well as this plate, and then this other gusset that will sit right here up against the back side of this mount. So I do have the 2 holes drilled out up here to fit the bolts that are gonna fit these 2 right here into. So I just need to go ahead and get that plate tacked onto this tab right here, and then I can go ahead and get this plate right here. I do still have 1 hole that I need to drill. That didn't come, my brother didn't put it on the plate because it was just too hard to reference off of. But that's gonna end up sitting just like that. So you can kind of get an idea how this thing's gonna start looking. But I do need to mark that hole and drill that before I get this tab actually welded to, or just tacked to the rest of this assembly. But I'm gonna go ahead, get this one on right now, and then start working my way around. I do have to trim and kind of fit all these pieces more than I'd like, but it's just because this is the first time we've done this mount, and I'm going back and actually changing the templates that I have according to what I'm taking off of the tabs before I actually tack everything together. That way we can go back in the computer, make the changes, and then the next time we do this, everything's good to go. Figure I'd show you guys this quick tip since I'm doing this right now anyways. This hole right here that I'm gonna need to mark on this plate right here, the way that I figure that out, because you can't get to the back side of this hole with a Sharpie and mark where the hole needs to be, what I'll do is I'll take a bolt, whatever, it doesn't even need to be the right size bolt for the hole, it can be a smaller bolt. I'll mark the end of the threads with some anti-seize just like this. And then what I'll do is I'll get that set up in there. I won't have the bolt go all the way through. I'll kind of have it sitting a little bit less than flush with the bolt hole. I'll just kind of hold it there. I'll get my plate kind of set up exactly where I want it, because you kind of got to move this one around in this instance. You got to kind of get it set exactly where you want. And then what I do is I'll take my bolt, slide it through and hit the plate, and then move this around all around, just kind of get that anti-seize put onto the plate just like this. And it gives you the perfect point to where you need to get your hole drilled, and then you can get it put back up on there right in the exact right place. I do have this plate right here put into the mount, got it tacked in place. Now I'm just working on the one that I need to get the hole drilled for right here, get that set in place, tacked into place, and then I can start working on the other few pieces that are left on this mount. But it's going along pretty smoothly, a little bit more trimming than I'd like I said, but it's the nature of this, just kind of getting it done for the first time. So it is looking really good. I'm really happy with the way that this mount is coming out. It should look really good when it's all said and done. So let's get this thing finished up. Got this guy all done. This guy, like you guys saw earlier, it's all finished. So now all I need to do is get these burned together. Everything came out pretty dang good. Super happy with the fitment on all this stuff now. This one did take a little bit of tweaking like you guys saw, but it does fit super good in the frame. All the bolt holes line up really nice, which the issue with the AutoFab stuff, which is another company that makes these 2-inch drop pivots, we do have the AutoFab beam mounts, or at least we did until we cracked the other one on the 92F1 build. And even when we were installing that stuff, all these holes to mount did not fit the greatest to the truck. And that's the one benefit of making this stuff on your own, is when you're fitting it to your vehicle specifically, it's gonna fit way better. So we just opted to go with this, and it was pretty cool to be able to have my brother draw it up like this and then have me cut it out. So all I need to do now, like I was saying, is weld these together, and then we can get them thrown back up on the frame and then start hanging the beams and start figuring out the radius arm mounts and all that stuff. These came out not too shabby, if I do say so myself. Came in, MIG welded everything, and then I did have to TIG weld a few little sections on here. And the reason for that is because if I ran a MIG weld in here, the washer for the bolt may have came in contact with the MIG weld and it would have made everything sit uneasy. But as you can see, with the TIG weld on there, everything sits nice and flush. So there's no issues with contact there. I'll be able to still get a socket or a wrench on here no matter what. So that worked out perfect. I made a spacer for the actual beam pivots. This is based off what the width is of the pivot point right there on the beam. And then I add 30 thousandths, which I typically do to everything now. I'll add 30 thousandths over whatever I'm trying to mount in between two tabs. And the reason for that is when you weld everything up and it's 30 thousandths over, when you pull this spacer back out, everything kind of goes into its place, and then it'll still slide onto whatever you're trying to mount in between the tabs real easily. I'll show you guys. This slides together super nicely still. That 30 thousandths over, it just allows for everything to slide together nice and easy. So now what we can do is get these pivots actually mounted back up underneath the frame right here. And then I can start hanging the beams and trying to figure out where the radius arm mounts are gonna go, so we can start figuring out radius arms themselves. Ooh, wait. All right, so got the pivots on, have the beams in the pivots, and everything's looking pretty good. The mounts fit back up into the cross member really, really nicely after welding everything together, so that's always a good thing. See, that side's in. Get a little front shot. Woo-wee! Then we got this side right over here. This was definitely the more challenging one, but it fits right in the cross member super nicely. And that's, like I was saying, the benefit of tacking everything together while it's on the actual truck you're going to be using it for. So those came out super good. And then I've been playing with where I want this radius arm mount, and I think this is where it's going to end up going. I might scoot it forward just a tiny bit to be able to clear this cross member bolt right here. But my plan is to eventually make a new trans cross member, because what I want to do is tie these radius arm mounts together through the bottom side of the frame. And if I just run a tube underneath this trans cross member, that's kind of defeating the purpose of having both of these things here. I might as well just tie everything together into one and get rid of some more stock parts on this truck, because, you know, why not? And it'll just make everything a lot stronger, so I'll probably end up doing that as well. But you can see this radius arm mount is definitely quite a bit further back. Now the radius arm itself is going to be pretty decently long, because, well, the stock mount used to sit right here in front of this body mount, and we're probably adding about 6 inches to this radius arm length, which is going to help with the caster while it cycles through the travel of the truck. This thing's not going to be pulling any crazy numbers, but it's definitely going to help with the longer radius arm to just keep that caster from changing as much as it did from the stock location. Getting this radius arm mount location all dialed in, and then getting these bolted to the frame, as well as getting these radius arms made, will probably be in the next video. We did get a decent amount done getting these beam pivots actually made and on the truck, as well as getting these beams back underneath this thing. Truck's not really looking like a hovercraft anymore, which I'm super pumped on. It's actually looking like a truck again. If you guys like this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you go cop some of that merch. If you guys like what we're doing, we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.